Kate Falcha. Welcome to Irish Granny Helen. I am recording this on Christmas Day. Got all dressed up. I just did a thing with Gerald, which will be coming up. It's already up because I don't know what day that I will upload this particular video, but I've been dying to get to it and I just haven't had time. And I have no big plans for the afternoon, so I thought, what better time? So it'd be no surprise to anybody that I'm rather fond of books, and the notion of book burning and book censoring and book ignoring is a pain for me. It affects me at the core. And I read an article, which I have right here, and I decided I'm not even going to take the time to summarize it. I'll just run through, take little kernels out of it right now. And the premise of this article is that no longer in grade school, and mostly no longer in high school, and a lot of the time not even in college, depending, are students required to read a full book from beginning to end. And I was just shocked at that information. And then there's the taking books off the shelf because they're inappropriate. I'm all for freedom of thought. Let people decide for themselves what's appropriate and inappropriate. And I have this wonderful set of cards that somebody just sent me. Banned books. So I thought, what would be more fun than to read this article and then maybe read a few cards about it, since we're talking about reading. So this article is entitled, Why Students Today Read Excerpts and Not Whole Books. And it's from the New York Times. So you find it in a lot of different newspapers. And the introductory sentence is traumatizing to me. In American high schools, the age of the book may be fading. Now, we have to acknowledge that times change. There was a very long time in history when few people were literate. And there was a time in history when if writing was being done, it was being pushed with a stylus, a sharp V-shaped pen, kind of, into soft wax, and then you'd smooth it and you'd do it again. There was a time in history when most cultures were oral traditions. And, it varied from place to place, culture to culture, time period to time period. But the crux of the matter is that book reading, the written word, is not always been the be all and end all of passing on information or being educated or entertainment. But the sad fact is that it's disappearing in our culture for some really disturbing reasons. So let's just look at this really quickly. Many teenagers are assigned few full books to read from beginning to end, often maybe one or two a year. And this is, the New York Times did all these surveys. 12th grade reading scores are at historic lows, and college professors, even in elite schools, are reporting difficulties in getting students to engage with lengthy or complex texts. Part of the problem is attention span. We've been conditioned, I guess is the word, by the use of devices to scroll through things really quickly, to look at hypertext. Hypertext is when an idea within a larger context is highlighted so that it jumps out at you and you can pursue it. You can hit that and go to the link that it provides. But what's happening is that there's so much of that they've actually proven that as you read a narrative, if there's a lot of hypertext in it, you might pass through it, just read it and keep going. You might not stop and take like a side trip. The presence of it at all is affecting negatively people's retention, comprehension, time, attention span. So let's see what else this says. It's to be expected in the era of TikTok and artificial intelligence. Some experts believe in the near future, most important stories will be imparted through audio and video that are now dominating with the streaming services and mobile services. So they started talking to teachers and students and parents to see what could be done. They had 2,000 people respond. And teachers who had taught for a very long time admitted that they're assigning fewer books than they ever did in their entire career. And I would argue, I just feel this very strongly, that kids, people in general, will be challenged to reach as high as you expect. If you keep expectations high, they'll attempt to reach that. If you keep them low, they're more than happy to adjust to that. So if your goal is to broaden somebody's horizons, increase their knowledge base, stimulate their imagination, improve their vocabulary, improve their writing, get information across, then of course you want to set that bar a little higher than might feel comfortable, so that you're always stretching your brain and you're always making the effort. Now, that's not to say that it can't always be easy and entertaining. For example, Sophie Kinsella just died, and she wrote the Shopaholic books. Those are hardly literary gems. They're hilarious. They're a lot of fun. They're distracting. Hours of humor and entertainment, not necessarily really challenging your brain at all much. And that's fine. That's okay. But we do have to have higher expectations, and teachers are capitulating to the situation. This is my problem. They're capitulating, and they're just saying, oh, well, the kids just don't seem to be able to do it, so we're not requiring it. Well, perhaps the kids need to be challenged so that they work those muscles. You don't develop them if you don't even try. I mean, I would love to have, muscles, but I'm not lifting weights. So realistically, what can you expect? So some of the teachers are complaining about the technology, the domination of it, and that it is affecting kids' ability to concentrate and focus. Some point to the curricula. They have these curricula that don't have very high bars. And it's got to do with publishers, and you really have to be careful of, they have to be careful of their source of their curricula. What they're getting are programs that revolve around short stories and little articles and excerpts from novels. And what the teachers are saying is, well, we have to be so careful to abide by the law. These anti-DEI laws are making it really hard to assign a full novel. Because they're not expecting much in grade school, by the time they get to high school, it's almost a losing battle. Programs that focus on excerpts were actually first created to help students do well in standardized testing. That's the first mistake. In order to get funding, they're required to have certain level of scores, and so they have to teach to the standardized test, and that negates any kind of higher expectation. It's called accountability, but I don't know. Okay. They said by the time they address the issues that need to be met in order to score high enough on the standardized testing to get their funding, they don't have time left to really be educating. This is a 26-year-old teacher of 10th grade English in a suburb in Ohio, says, as a high school student less than a decade ago, this is in his neighborhood, he's back teaching. As a high school student less than a decade ago in the same place, he was assigned many whole books and plays to read. The Crucible, Their Eyes Were Watching God, Henrietta, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. But as a teacher, he says they use this thing called Study Sync, and it centers on excerpts. And he says many of his colleagues, his professional peers, don't believe the students will or can read full books, and therefore don't even try. He says he hasn't found that to be true. He assigns several longer works each year. Macbeth, Fahrenheit 451. He said teenagers still react. They feel a passion for a good story, and they can and do rise to the occasion. It's just a matter of setting the expectations. Thank you. That's my argument. Build it and they will come. Raise the bar and they will jump to try to achieve it. Whole books, when they're assigned, are from what they call a relatively stagnant list of classics. I protest. When I was a kid, now I sound 100 years old. Well, when I was a child, when the last day of school came, we were presented with a reading list for the summer. And they were lengthy. And many of the books on the reading list were harder than our grade level. And the expectation was you take that home and you plow your way through it. And you never knew in the next year of school what they will refer to what they will refer. Will you have read the book that they're going to focus on? You better hope so, because, nuns don't stand for much. They don't put up with, I didn't read the book. Send you home with the book and have it read by the weekend. So this one survey done in 2009 said that the average high school student is assigned 4 books a year. A significant minority is assigned 7 or more books. And I'm trying to remember what I read in high school. And I just remember every year we did Shakespeare of some sort or other. I'm thinking I remember doing Julius Caesar, and I remember doing Macbeth, and I remember doing Merchant of Venice, and I remember a number, Romeo and Juliet, and a number of them. And I didn't always like them, and I hardly ever completely understood them, but they were of enormous benefit. And that's the thing, sometimes you have to take your medicine. This one survey in 24 found that there was an average of 2.7 books assigned a year. So we're talking 16 years later, roughly. They've lost about half. And they point to the Common Core, which is a curriculum that was set with national standards for English and math in the early 2010s, and it heavily shapes the classroom today. It was intended to better prepare students for college. And that's the thing, we're always preparing somebody to be successful elsewhere instead of focusing on introducing them to big ideas and improving the vocabulary by exposure to words that they don't understand. I remember reading Victorian novels when I was a kid. I had no idea what 90% of the words meant, and I didn't look them all up. I got what I could out of context of the story. And if you encounter the same word over and over from context, you kind of start to get a feeling for what the word means, and the word becomes familiar looking. And the next thing you know, you're using it in a sentence and you don't even know why. And our vocabularies have just sunk rock bottom. I wish I had thought to look it up, but I read somewhere recently that as we read fewer and fewer books, our stockpile of words that we access on a regular basis has narrowed and gotten smaller and smaller. So let's see here. It talks a little bit about the politics around using this Common Core thing and the kinds of books that they're leaving out, like Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime, and the Joy Luck Club, Amy Tan's Joy Luck Club. They only read one chapter. It's a fabulous book. Anyway, let's see here. The other thing they said that some of the books that are included in this Common Core are not challenging. They're below ability. And there are other reasons that some book places prefer certain books rather than others. And sometimes it's got to do with copyright. I don't understand that. And state laws over the past 5 years have limited all sorts of things. This is this DEI nonsense that they're trying to protect everybody from. A teacher in Houston noted that the study sync they use offers a 988-word excerpt from Enemies, a love story by the Yiddish writer Isaac Bashevis Singer, a famous great writer. She says, in Texas, there's no way we've been able to read the entire thing. It's a beautiful book. But it talks about an affair. And because of the moralistic laws that they have, they won't let them read it. So one 22-year-old said that she only read one book her freshman year, The Hate You Give. She said, I opted out and I did an online course instead where I read a book about every 2 weeks. So that's my little rant and rave for the day about how sorrowful I feel for younger kids who are being deprived of the joy, the journey you go on when you sit by yourself with a book and you get lost in the narrative. And hours can go by. And I know that this is not just me. I know I'm not an aberration. This is true for most people if they're allowed to do it. But you see it all the time. Kids are handed a tablet or handed a phone when they have nothing to do. Hand them a book. And you know, the gateway drug for books for children who are resistant to reading is graphic novels. And I personally do not like graphic novels. I think, you know, just push yourself and read the book. But I do understand the appeal, and I think they serve a purpose. I have some graphic novels that my kids had a long time ago, you know, like The Count of Monte Cristo or whatever. And what I do with the illustrated classics, right? I give those to my grandson, who's 5 or 6. I can't remember. And they're over his head in vocabulary, but he's engaging in the storyline from the drawings, and that stimulates the imagination. It creates a life of the mind. Very, very important to have a life of the mind. So let's read these cards, banned books, and we can look at the cards from 2 points of view. We can look at them as what they stand for as tarot cards, and we can look at them as the banned books that they depict. This should be kind of fun. Okay, so let's ask, what's the likely outcome of this? I mean, what are we losing when children are not encouraged to engage their brain in hard work? Wow, there's nothing better than a brand new tarot card. They're so easy to shuffle. Although I will say, you know, I'm kind of delicate. My hands are small, and these cards are kind of big, so I'm fumbling a bit here. Okay. What is this rejection of the effort? What are we losing? How's it affecting us? Let's look. Oh. they're not using they're not using pentacles and wands and swords. Okay. I'm going to have to look in the book and figure out what the heck they're talking about. Okay, well, I know what that is. Okay. Okay, swords, they're using pens. Inkwells, I think that might be pentacles. Let's see here. Okay, major arcana, we don't need to look because it's pretty obvious. The minor, okay. The four suits are words, inkwells, pens, and paper. Pens are swords. Okay, here we go. It's explaining. Words are wands. Well, that makes it easy. W's. Words are wands. Pens are swords. Inkwells are cups. Oh, okay, duh. Okay, and then so paper will be hearts. I'm sorry, pentacles. Paper's pentacles. Okay. Inkwells are cups. Words are wands. I think I've got this. Okay. So at the heart of this, our question being, what is this doing to us, this rejection of the written word? We're getting the 7 of paper reversed. And the book is All Boys Aren't Blue. 7 of paper reversed. And what did I say paper was? Pentacles? This is my process. You're all getting to watch my process. Hilarious. Paper is pentacles. Okay. So the 7 of pentacles is kind of a loss of all that hard work or rejection of an accumulation of knowledge and work. And we get the King of Pens, George Orwell, 1984. The King of Pens is the King of Swords. So this is a rejection of the word, of knowledge, of information, intellect. It's a real loss is what this is talking about, an enormous loss. And in the atmosphere is the 4 of Pens, the Count of Monte Cristo. So interesting they would choose the Count of Monte Cristo. That was a banned book? You're kidding me. So interesting they would pick the Count of Monte Cristo about a guy that is, has incarceration for the 4 of Pens, which is the 4 of Swords, which is a retreat from the fray. It's a backing off. So what you're seeing is a movement away from the written word, and at the foundation, the Queen of Inkwells reversed. This is a sorrowful loss. How interesting that we're actually getting a clear narrative here. Oh, and let's see what the book is for the Queen of Inkwells. The Giving Tree. Shel Silverstein was a banned book. Are you kidding me? Well, there's a lot going on here. I'm sorry this is a little distracted today, but the Giving Tree was a banned book. I'd love to know the rationale behind that. I wonder if this little book explains why. The Queen of Inkwells. It's at the very back. The Queen of Inkwells, the Giving Tree. Controversial. Oh, I didn't know this. Controversial for allegedly anti-feminist themes, The Giving Tree has held a prized place in countless children's lives for its thought-provoking story that shows love is a two-way street. I didn't know it had an anti-feminist theme. My children love Shel Silverstein. They're all great readers, and they're very activist feminists. So I'm not sure that that's a narrative that we can uphold, that if you read something one way or the other, it's going to mold you into the adult you become. It won't predict what your opinions will be. Okay, in the recent past, The Page of Inkwells reversed The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I'm not familiar with that book. It's a newer book, and I think it's a young adult book. The Page of Inkwells reversed. So in the recent past, we get a rejection of once again, a rejection. It's a rejection of the past. It's a rejection of the work that's been done, the rejection of the work product, the body, the material stuff. And in the near future, we get the Knight of Inkwells reversed. Once again, a rejection of emotion, of that link, that connection between the written word, the Page of Inkwells, and the Knight of Inkwells. Oh, Inkwells are cups. So the Page of Cups, it's not pentacles. The Page of Cups is about, reversed, is about rejecting or negating that starting the journey of emotion. I think what this is saying is that we're retreating from the knowledge base that we've had before. We're allowing, 1984, we're allowing new thought to reject old thought. We're kind of betraying the foundation of the knowledge that's available, the work of the past. And look at this. This is it. This is the situation itself. This is very obvious. The Three of Swords is what this is. The Three of Pens. We will suffer from this. We will suffer from the rejection. So Inkwells is cups, pens, paper. This is Pentacles, the Six of Pentacles reversed. We're not giving and receiving from one generation to another, from one culture to another, from one set of experiences to everybody else. We're not passing these things along. We're rejecting and losing these things as a result. And I forgot to tell you that this book is Beloved by Toni Morrison. That was banned. And this book is The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby was banned. Is anybody else's mind boggled at this point? Hopes and Fears. Hopes and Fears. The book is 13 Reasons Why. I think this is a young adult novel I don't know anything about. But Hopes and Fears, the Ace of Pens. There's a hope that perhaps we'll return to that intellectual inheritance that we have, and the hope that we'll continue to write and continue to read. It's about knowledge and justice. But this is also the fear. It's the fear of the written word. And the outcome, boy, this is timely. The outcome is the Ten of Pens. It's the Ten of Swords, the suffering. Maybe this is the end of a cycle. The book is Maus, M-A-U-S. Now, that's a graphic novel. It's a 2-volume set, and it's written about the experience. It's autobiographical. Well, kind of autobiographical. It is the story of the author's parents' survival of the Holocaust, written in graphic novel form as told to him by his parents, and crossed by the Five of Inkwells, which is the Five of Cups, the Lovely Bones. That's a good story. The Lovely Bones. So we've got the Ten of Swords crossed by the reversed Five of Cups. This, perhaps this sort of censorship and movement that rejects the written word will end. This nonsense will come to the end of its logical life cycle. And as a result, we will return to, it's the end of suffering. It's the end of experiencing the negative repercussions of doing this nonsensical thing. Let's ask, what are they afraid of? What are they so afraid of that books are banned and reading is not encouraged? Okay, let me write this down. Paper, pentacles, pens or swords, and inkwells or cups. And I keep my head straight. It's hard to interpret the cards and remember this unfamiliar symbolism at the same time. So I just wrote it down. What are we afraid of? Why is this happening? Why? Why are we foolishly rejecting the wealth of written? Okay, why is this happening? What are they afraid of? What's the purpose behind this? And so this card, the banned book, is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. And it's the Two of Paper, which is the Two of Pentacles. So this is a choice. And why has this choice been made? The Nine of Pens, which is the Nine of Swords. So we have the Two of Pentacles crossed by the reverse Nine of Swords, which is Goosebump by R.L. Stine. Fabulous books. Really wonderful books. So why is this decision of what to teach, what not to teach, what to let kids read and not read, is being crossed by for some reason they feel constrained. They feel a sense of trapped, and I don't know if it's trapped in concepts or trapped by the culture, or like this is a rejection of DEI. They're trying to eliminate anything that doesn't support a certain ideology. And this is why I think this is a fear. The Brave New World in the atmosphere, the Two of Words, this is the Two of Wands. I think they're looking to mold the future. And to mold the future, they King of Wands. They're doing it from a very authoritarian point of view. And this is Animal Farm. So we have two George Orwell books that have been banned. Crazy. It's just forbidding people to use their brains. There's a real fear that the future generation, looking to the future, people will be easier to control if we can not give them choices, if we can put the lid on, make them feel constrained, monitor the ideology. And it's not fair. Justice reversed, which is To Kill a Mockingbird. Well, anything that rejects To Kill a Mockingbird, I mean, come on. Come on. In the near future, How to Be an Anti-Racist, which I have not read. I think it's another young adult novel, I think. And the card itself is the Page of Paper, which is Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles. So there's this new project, new journey, new undertaking to control what people are reading, to control what's going into the minds of kids, to have more authoritarian influence in the future. This is not a good thing, not at all. And how interesting that a lack of justice is what's pushing this forward. And it is also the Knight of, also To Kill a Mockingbird. The lack of justice was To Kill a Mockingbird. And the situation itself, once again, To Kill a Mockingbird. The Knight of Paper, the Knight of Pentacles. This is a patient undertaking. It's not fair to deny people the free will to read whatever they want. But it's coming from an authoritarian impulse with an eye on controlling the future by really constraining the stuff that goes into kids' heads. So this is a new project. You know, they're going to start monitoring and banning and forbidding. And as a result, we've got this slow, determined project that they've been working on in the environment of the Knight of Words. That's Wands. So interesting, the Knight of Paper, the Knight of Wands, the Call of the Wild, To Kill a Mockingbird. The Call of the Wild was banned? I feel like I'm hallucinating here. The Call of the Wild was banned? Oh my God. Okay. So let's just talk about the Knight of Words being the willingness to take the action. We have a plan and we're determined to carry this plan forward. We're determined to do whatever it takes to put constraint. You know, that Nine of Pens, the Nine of Swords, to constrain. Oh, and here's the Knight of Pens. A lot of knights here. This is, to me, this speaks of a crusade that has been carried on for a long time. And the Knight of Pens is like the Knight of Swords. And Percy Jackson and the Olympians. You kidding me? I guess because, you know, false gods. I don't know. So we have the Knight. Okay, I'm going to put it into the real meaning. The Knight of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands, the Knight of Swords. This is this crusade to deny knowledge. The Eight of Swords, the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Words is the Eight of Wands, crossed by the Lovers. Oh, what's this book? Lady Chatterley's Lover and Huckleberry Finn. There's this overwhelming, long-term, very patient plan to constrain information with a view on the kind of world they want to create, a brave new world, the world they want to create. And to do that, they have to unjustly deny people free access to the written word. And they do that by dumbing down the curriculum, by not requiring hard work. You don't have to read a whole book. That just blows my mind. And this is going to continue because, as you can see, some of these books that are banned it's incomprehensible to me why they would be banned. And the only thing I can think of is because they require people to critically think, to question their belief system, to develop a moral compass that's based in compassion and understanding of other people and not in a desire to control. That's what these cards all say. Now, this was, I'm sure, not the clearest reading because the cards are unfamiliar, with the different symbols for the different suits. But I think the message itself is really clear, that there's an authoritarian impulse to deprive people of even the neurological ability to focus long term on a full book, because the less you know, the better. The less you're exposed to, the less you understand other people, the less compassion you have for other people, the less interest you have in things that are different. This is very sad. I hadn't intended this to be sad. I thought it was going to be funnier, but I guess banned books, not a very entertaining subject. I'll do some more of these with these cards because I want to get more comfortable with them. So thanks for bearing with me while I work the kinks out. And I think there's a glimmer of a message here that we need to be very careful about low expectations because they are damaging. And with that being said, thank you for watching, and Slán go fóill. Slán.